Going. Hey, what's up there, social media family? It's Chris, your favorite coach. Today, your favorite host, hosting another episode here of Conversations with Chris, where I'm Chris. I have conversations with people I find are interesting, and I want to share their story with the world. And today, I'm real excited because we have someone who has accomplished more than half the people that are twice her age. Easily enough. So we've got Charlotte today. She's a high school student, a researcher, a public speaker, actually did her own TEDx with a passion for leadership, law, and science. So let's see what she's all about. Yay. You can hear people clapping. Yay, Charlotte. Right?
Yeah. Sounds great.
So welcome. Thanks for popping on today. So
thank you.
I got to ask, I mean, you've already accomplished so much, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've done up to this point.
Well, I mean, you did a great job summarizing it. You flatter me, obviously. It's easy to look at someone and just their bio. But if I were to, from a personal perspective, describe myself, I'd say I'm a curious thinker who strives to be a lifelong student. My biggest passion in life is learning and being curious about the world around me in order to become a better person. And I think the ways in which I do that ended up in your description about me. I love to research. I have connections to research, as that's something my dad pursues. My mom is a leadership coach, so I've loved leadership and admired leaders for my entire life. And I have so many people that I look up to that embody the ideals and principles of leadership. I love policy and debate. That's another thing I'm really passionate about. And yeah, I think those all just ended up in my TED Talk in different ways.
I love that. It's funny. You reached out to me because I'm saying it now. We've got approved for a TEDx license right here in Lake Worth Beach.
Hey,
Charlotte's going to be helping out with that. I'll be speaking. We've got some good speakers lined up. The theme is unscripted, and Charlotte found me. And I mean, that's a great little hat tip to your ingenuity there. And then what's funny, because when I researched you, I saw your TEDx video on YouTube, and you hadn't even seen it yet. I guess it was brand new. So you found me before you found your own video.
Isn't that insane? I mean, so what was going on was the TEDx headquarters were taking a while to publish it and get everything done because I was selected as a talk that they found interesting. And, when you have a TEDx talk that you find interesting, specifically from the TED headquarters, they take it and they publish it themselves, which was an honor. I was really excited. But the downside of that was that it takes a while. So I was like, oh, Chris, I can explain it to you, but I don't have the video yet. There was a live stream, but it expired at that point. He was like, actually, I went on YouTube and I saw it and I was like, what? Send it to me.
Yeah. Let me ask you a little. I mean, I'm just curious. How did you land on the monopoly analogy for that talk? I mean, were there any other ideas you almost went with? And tell us a little bit about that process. I mean, that's a big deal.
So thank you so much. And the interesting thing about developing a TED Talk is you go through a vetting process with people that are around you, right? I was in a classroom environment with my peers and amazing mentors, people that I look up to. And I think they really epitomize the ideals of TED and being a curious, lifelong student. But anyways, I have been playing Monopoly for virtually my entire life. I think, not my entire life, but if you look in the first line of my TED Talk, it's like, on the last day of third grade, my babysitter introduced me to a game that I've been playing ever since. And there are so many interesting, there's so much depth, and it's so enigmatic, the game, in terms of how do you win? What's the real strategy here? And again, going back to the fact that I consider myself a curious, lifelong student who loves to inquire about the interesting things in terms of everything. I love math, so that was a big part of it as well. Math is one of my biggest passions. I'm geared up to take AP Calculus BC next year. And my dad is also a mathematician as well. He's really interested in math. So the strategy and mathematics and economic impact that the strategy has, I thought that Monopoly, something that I love, served as the perfect vehicle to explain why you need to trust data over your intuition. So that's kind of a soundbite as to why I chose that.
It's because I mean, I'm a real estate guy. I always think of Monopoly, man. What a great way to teach people,
Right?
on real estate, kind of how it works and collecting rents and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I thought your analogy, I thought it was spot on. Most people are terrified of public speaking. I mean, it's funny. The number one fear is public speaking. The number two fear is death. That means if you're at a funeral, most people would rather be in the coffin rather than giving the eulogy, right? So, but
That's
knowing this, most people are terrified of public speaking, let alone giving a TED talk. How did you prepare for such a high stakes moment? At such a young age.
Well, thank you so much. And I actually loved that analogy you just used. If you're at a funeral, you would rather be in a coffin than delivering the eulogy. I have to tell people
Based on the statistics, right? If the number
you're
one
right.
fear is public speaking, the number two is death. You'd rather be in the box than giving the eulogy.
I have to like start using that, because it's always like the number one fear is public speaking, and it's like yeah, but people, just going back to the TED Talk purpose, people always respond better to the analogy, because as they say, just to go back to the idea, one death is a news story and 1,000 deaths is a statistic.
That's right.
So it's so important to lock into the data, but also provide an analogy. And in terms of public speaking, I think it truly is such a disgrace. I think that we should be pushing public speaking initiatives in school, because in order to communicate an idea effectively and get across what you're trying to say, which is good for the betterment of society, you need to be able to get up there and explain what you want to say. And I was so blessed to be surrounded by people who wanted to help me. My mom is an excellent public speaker, and she kind of like nags on me, like, you mumble sometimes, so I try my hardest to enunciate when I can. But honestly, the biggest thing was just practice. At that point, we were such a short, close-knit class that I honestly think I could have repeated from start to finish everybody's talks myself.
Yeah.
So it was so collaborative, but just in terms of independently, I think I would say it while I was brushing my teeth. I would speak my talk while I was in the mirror. I would talk about my through line in the car with my mom when we were going from place to place, like an appointment, or from school, honestly, a lot. So there's that. And I think, honestly, repeating it and the repetition of it all really aids in internalizing your message, because when you've said it that many times, even if it's unconsciously, you start to have a deeper grasp on what it is you're trying to say it. And when you're thinking about it more, you have more of a connection to it. So I think that actually really helped me get up on that stage and look like I earnestly cared about what I talked about, because even when people do really care about what they're saying, sometimes it doesn't come out that way.
There's so many elements to speaking, and me as a business and leadership coach, a lot of things that I do with business owners is one of the things that's becoming a better speaker. And I think there's so much value in becoming a better speaker, even if you're not going to be on stage. I mean, even if you're not going to be on stage talking in front of a lot of people, like at a TED, even if it's just in your regular day-to-day conversations with your business and your family, it makes a big deal. And I get so excited, and it tickles me pink when young people like yourself jump on this. Because I wish, if you would have asked me when I was your age, I'd be like, I'd rather die than wear a suit and tie. I'm never going to do that. Are you kidding me? No way. I'm never going to do that. And then here I am doing all that stuff, right? I mean, in going through that process, was there something unexpected you learned about yourself through the TEDx process?
Gosh, it's crazy, because when you're up on a stage, obviously public speaking takes its forms, as you said, in conversations like this. It's going to take its form when I go with, like, in my now or with my little brother on a bike ride. Hey, do you want to go on a bike ride? Public speaking really is communicating what you want to say in a way that gets people to listen. And learning about myself through that process was so rewarding, but also a little bit eye-opening. I would get up on the stage, and the one thing that I always heard was, you're mumbling, you're losing yourself in the mic. So that was something I really had to work on, to like dot my I's and cross my T's and enunciate. And also I was locking my knees, but that's like kind of the logistics side. But another thing I learned is that I normally talk slow, but honestly, talking about taking something that people see as a disability and turning it into a superpower, because I heard that because I was talking slowly in my talk and taking my time to place emphasis on words I wanted the audience to recall, it really upped people's opinions and memory recall of the message I was trying to say.
It
So I
hits
learned a lot.
different. That's great. I mean, listen, that's yeah, I mean, you're way ahead of the game here. I mean, so you've been through it. What advice would you give me or any other TEDx organizer or speaker that's gonna prepare for a TEDx talk?
I'm just to go back to it, I'm so excited to be working with you and helping to organize the event in any way possible. And I'm excited to continue to add insight and learn and just continue the process because I'm so passionate about TED. But I'd say there are so many pieces of advice, but the one that kept coming up in everybody's talk, because we'd work together like virtually every day. Where is your through line? The through line to me is the most important concept in a TED Talk. You're sitting in the audience, you're listening, and a lot of it is unfortunately, it's just a reality of life. It's going to become white noise. You need to have that 1-2 sentence statement that people are going to get up from their seat, go home, and remember. Oh, what was that TED Talk about? I don't really remember. Something like this, this, and that. So constantly figuring out, highlighting, underlining, putting it together, switching words around. What is the 2 sentences you want people to be able to recall about your TED Talk, and working through it so that it becomes clearer and clearer through the analogies you provide, through the pieces of evidence you collect to prove your point. Figuring out that 2-sentence through line to me is the most important thing, and that's what distinguishes a mediocre event from a great one.
Yeah, it's funny. I just right this morning, I'm putting together a 30-minute keynote that I'm going to be giving in Vegas next month, and it's going to be, and it's fun because the organization I'm doing it with, Paul, the guy I work with, said, "Hey, we need 1 or 2 mic drop moments in there," and just what you're talking about are those mic drop moments, right? Yeah. So it's one thing to have data, it's one thing to tell great stories and have great analogies, but those statements, those things that really cut through and cause people to think in a different direction and hopefully cause people to take a new action. I mean, that's why we do this, really, isn't it?
That's another really important point. What are you going to do about it? That's something that was constantly asked about me. Okay, I'm sitting here. What am I going to do about it? You're telling me all of this information. If I don't have a way to apply it, and if I don't have a clear call to action, then it ends up becoming white noise, unfortunately.
Well, that's actually what caused me to make the transition from just being a speaker and a trainer. And, I used to run an office. I was a speaker and a trainer. And I had a coach at the time that got me into coaching, because it's like, hey, training people, teaching people how to do something. Now they know how to do it. But what now? Right. And adding that coaching component onto what I do allowed me to work with people in longevity and get them to take the action over time. So that's, great. Great. You could sit there and be entertained for 15 or 20 minutes. I really talk, oh, I learned something. And then they go out to lunch and you never come back. But really, if it's going to, how's it going to change and make their life better, make the world a better place moving forward?
Exactly.
I mean, you're involved with so many things. One of the things that I see you're involved with is research on autonomic regulation and cognitive control. I mean, how'd you get interested in this topic?
Thank you so much. It's actually a personal story that I like to tell. And when my dad and I are talking about it and we're presenting something to someone else or asking to bring someone else in the research loop and working on a protocol, it's something that comes up. When I was younger, I had massive autonomic dysregulation problems. I had eczema, and many people suffer from it. It's a pretty commonplace thing to have on your skin, but mine was deeper. It was deep-seated inflammatory gut problems. I would constantly be in pain from a headache or a stomach ache, and honestly, parts of my arms looked like a murder scene, and it was due to all of the scratching. And it's a little it's a little rough for a podcast, but I swear we're going somewhere with this. And it led to me not being the strongest student in the classroom. I would have problems, and it was about 2nd grade or so. And despite not being the strongest student in the classroom, I always was curious. That was something that my teachers always told my parents. She always wants to learn more and ask questions. She's great at asking questions, but she's not great at recalling the information or staying focused for long periods of time. And my dad, he was very interested in the theory of autonomic regulation versus dysregulation. What role does your vagus nerve, which travels from the stem of your brain to your gut, that brain-gut axis, what role is that playing in my daughter wanting to basically go away due to the massive problems she was experiencing with her health? And so I worked with my dad, and he kind of took that piece of me that was always curious, wanting to learn more, wanting to dive deeper. And we worked together to figure out what ways I could use, turn my, you asked me for something on the bio, turning your disability into a superpower. We found a way, research-wise and applying a treatment, to turn that disability into a superpower. And, he says that mic drop moment for him was when I was in second grade and I had finished up the treatment. I was working on it. I didn't have headaches anymore. I didn't have stomach aches anymore. My skin had healed, but I gave a presentation in my second grade class. We had to choose someone we looked up to. And I'd always looked up to Albert Einstein just because, it's Albert Einstein. But I could actually go up there and explain all the different theories that he wanted to spread. I could go up in there and explain the theory of relativity. I mean, obviously from a second grade perspective, Brownian motion, all of those different models. And so that's what really got me into that research perspective. And as I've gotten older, I've been able to get more involved with it. I'm working with people on a protocol. I can't reveal too much just because we're in the process of, refining our protocol, finding candidates, going to an RRB, but stay tuned for that.
It's so impressive what you're doing. It's I do a lot with the behavior profiles and people that have like kind of this right brain, left brain, and some people are heart-centered and brain-centered. You've kind of got all this going on. I'm just curious, how do you balance the analytical world of science with the more human-centered world of leadership and law?
Right. So that's an excellent question. And I think, to me personally, the biggest mistake that people in general make when categorizing just the way specifically I act is saying, and this goes into my TED Talk too, the big difference between human behavior and data. To me, I mean, obviously, idealistically, human behavior is driven by data, but I mean, I'm actually looking at this book right now that I'm reading. It's called The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. And he argues that morality and behavior, reason is what serves the elephant. It's like reason is the rider on the elephant. And we come to conclusions independently first due to our emotions, which are kind of compilations of our observations around us, and then reason serves. So what I'm getting at is that it's hard to distinguish the two for me personally, because our reason and our analytics are, as a way of life, always going to serve how we act as human beings. So to me, the biggest thing is seeing how they work together instead of separating them. How can we become stronger thinkers, better people, by working together the way we, use data and interpret it and collect it, and the way we act and our call to action? Putting them together instead of separating them, to me, is the best way to balance it.
I love that. So, it's exactly when you were talking, it made me think about how I always say, because people are like, oh, are you a life coach? And I'm like, well, I'm really a business and leadership coach, but I help you with your life. And I don't make a distinction between work life. People always talk about work-life balance.
That's such an excellent point.
I don't make a distinction between them. I just think it's like, you should just have fun doing everything all the time, but maybe that's not the right way to think. But I think what you're saying is just kind of not making a distinction between this analytical and science side and this, this data-driven, this information, and then the human side, which is highly, dealing with people, and people could be people-y and highly emotional. It's I had a mentor once, and she said that she had a dual major in college, and she said, I majored in math and I majored in physics. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And she's like, math is the study of absolutes and physics is the study of possibilities. So I figured I had it all covered. I think it's interesting, just kind of how these things cross over. You're kind of in that boat right now, aren't you?
Yep. Intersections are so important. And I was actually just thinking about, work-life balance is something that we hear a lot in the leadership world, and dealing with people and figuring out how are you going to show up the best at work and get people to follow you. Because if we're really thinking about leadership, I think that your effectiveness as a leader can kind of strive from how well people follow you. And that distinction between work-life balance, right? How are we balancing it? It's just, I heard about this Chinese or either Chinese or Japanese theory about work and life. And the rules were be passionate about something, find your passion, do your passion, do what you're good at, and do what you're passionate about and what you're good at. See how you can make money off it, and you don't need a work-life balance. And I understand that that's an idealistic system of thinking where we find everybody can be passionate about something that they're good at, right? That's a job that you can find. But the reality of the situation is if we were to present a society or a model of society where we can have it that they follow those like 3 or 4 rules of Chinese or Japanese work system of thinking, we would have a more productive worker base. And that's why I think it's so important, as you said, not to push work-life balance, because we should find a way that you're doing what you love all the time and always having fun. Because when people have fun, they're more productive.
Yep. I mean, I'm all about fun, and making no distinction between work and life and not having work-life balance. And also sometimes it's a series of counterbalances. And sometimes in life you are going to work. You're going to leave work at lunch and go hit golf balls for the rest of the day. Sometimes you're going to work a 12-hour day just because that's the momentum you've got and that's the direction you're feeling. It's different when you're doing something because you feel like you have to or because you want to and you're being drawn to it. So I know. I mean, that's like I go through sprints in my world where I'm just like putting the pedal to the metal, burning the midnight oil, grinding and working and getting all this stuff done. And then I'll unplug and I'll be the laziest person in the world. And it's okay. It's okay to have those things, just understanding those counterbalances. But I just look these things kind of showing up everywhere. So let me ask you, in your view, what is one leadership principle that people your age often overlook but shouldn't?
That's such an excellent question. And I'm loving these questions you're giving me. They're great. They're really amazing and tailored.
That's what I do.
Exactly. What I'm thinking, as a result of being involved in the TED process, I feel like whenever somebody asks me an insightful question, I think of a TED Talk because, a fun fact about me is I have an eidetic memory. I think of a TED Talk and the line of it that kind of perfectly encapsulates the question. And what you just asked me about leadership for people my age, what are people overlooking? There's a TED Talk that my mentor sent me. Amazing woman. We worked with her with TED. She was my math teacher. Incredible. It's called Lollipop Leadership. I'll actually have to send it to you, but I can summarize it. Basically, you've seen it before?
No, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to, send it to me for sure.
We'll have to send it to you, but for right now,
I got teenage daughters, that I want to pass this along to.
Exactly. So the purpose of Lollipop Leadership was there was this guy, and he went to a college in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and his whole entire time he was talking about leadership and why it needs to be more accessible. We make leadership out to be this thing where it can only be involved in a corporate setting. Leadership is only for people who have X, Y, or Z salary. Leadership is only a thing that you can learn or it has to be taught within a university. Completely untrue. And he was pushing this by, again, the analogy. His analogy, or the purpose of conveying his message, was through a story. He talked about how he was at New Brunswick University in New Jersey, and he saw this girl, and she was terrified. She was with her parents, and she didn't want to go, and he overheard her parents talking to her and saying, "Listen, we'll pick you up in a week if you don't like it, but we just want you to try it." Okay. And she was still really, really nervous, and she was next to this guy in line, and they were both looking around what are we going to do? We aren't ready for the stage in our life. And here comes the speaker of the talk. He was in a costume. He had lollipops everywhere, and the sign "I'll give you a lollipop," and you give me a kiss, something ridiculous. But he handed it to her, and everybody started dying laughing. Everybody was turning to each other and talking about it and oh my God, this guy's crazy. But the purpose of that story in the context of the TED Talk was just because he gave a lollipop, he became a leader on campus. That girl and the guy next to her ended up dating and getting married. And he got an email from her, and that's what sparked him to give the TED Talk. The point that I think every young leader or people that are looking to be leaders should not overlook is that you can be a leader in literally any capacity. It's not something that's confined to a certain space of corporate America or having a certain salary and education. It's literally as simple as giving someone a lollipop.
I love that. Yeah, it's it shows up everywhere, and that's why I'm asking at your age, because I didn't realize this until I got older, and the responsibility that comes with it. And I remember being kind of pushed into leadership positions and at a younger age. When I say younger age, I mean in my 20s, and I'm like, that's not me. I'm not that leader. And a mentor of mine, Sean Rawls, he's from Atlanta, his next, and he's like, He's like, Chris, do you know how you know when you're a leader? And I'm like, I said, trust me, I'm no leader. He's like, well, you know you're a leader when people follow you, and you don't get to choose that. And I was like, man, that was kind of one of those things. And then you feel this kind of social responsibility. And I think, there's a lot of young people that have this, that have the qualities. And sometimes it's misused. It's it could
I
be,
completely agree with you.
I mean,
Yeah,
bullying is a form of leadership, right?
you're completely correct.
And it's like, it's like you've got the responsibility. What do you do with it? I tell my kids all the time, and this is like a terrible analogy. I said, Jesus and Hitler had the same skill set. What are you going to do with it? Right. So, and then sometimes it's like, I'll be like, Jesus or Hitler. Right. So what are you doing? What are you doing with it? That's awesome. Can we have a little fun?
Way to get it across. Huh? One way to get it across for sure.
I always come up. This thing's just pop into my head and fly out of my mouth all the time. So let me ask you about this. So, like, you're a Model UN award winner, a golfer, and a fan of legal dramas, right? Yep. So, if you were going to write your own courtroom TV show, what would be the twist that set your show apart?
Gosh, that's such an excellent question. And I'm just going back to thinking of okay, so again, I feel like I'm going off on tangents here, but I swear, the way
that's why we do it live, because magic happens in the tangents and the spontaneous. Right. And you never know. That's why I don't send people questions ahead of time, right? I always tell people, because people see this thing and then they come on, Charlotte, and they're like, "Hey, what are you going to ask me?" And I'm like, "I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the conversation goes." About, but magic happens. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us what's going to set apart your courtroom drama TV show.
I recently gave a presentation, because once you finish your TED Talk in a TEDx classroom, you're also supposed to give a presentation called Pechakucha. And Pechakucha, I don't know if you've heard of it or not. It's very foreign, but it's really difficult. And you pick a niche topic that nobody really knows about. It's like, okay, I have an idea about it, but what's up with that? And you have to take a deep dive on this niche topic. You have 20 slides to do it. No words on slides, just photos, and 20 seconds per slide. And before you're ready, or before you've even finished your thought on that slide, it clicks, right? So I adore legal dramas. I love law. If you actually look behind me, there's a whole shelf of legal books, walnut summary books. And so as a result, my favorite show of all time and my favorite producer of all time is Shonda Rhimes. I gave a presentation. My niche Pechakucha topic was how amazing Shonda Rhimes is as a person, as someone who broke through walls, as a conglomerate business leader and hit TV show generator. And the number one show, because I'm a TV show fanatic, right? I explained to everybody how much I love TV shows. I'm the TV show recommendation person. I love film. I'm actually helping with my LA Errico internship. Her produce a welcome video that I'm working her through, because that's how much I love it. But back to legal dramas, the one legal drama that I say I love the most, and I think it's the best show to ever be created, it might be a stretch, but it's my personal favorite. It's How to Get Away with Murder with Viola Davis. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a popular show. It was back a while ago. Viola Davis is in it. She won the first Emmy as a Black woman to present within the show. And
she's incredible.
The twist that I always love, and even though someone else already did it in How to Get Away with Murder, I think more people should be doing it, and this is what would set mine apart, is non-linear storytelling. I'm already showing my mom the show. She loves it. And the purpose is, in the beginning and in the end and throughout, there's a main event, oh my God, that did not just happen, crime throughout the season. There are many crimes too, but there's one that you don't get to know until the end. But you're given little bite-sized pieces. And the way to distinguish between them is they do a black bluish screening over when you're getting pieces of a longer story that only come to the end. It may not make sense the way I'm explaining it, but that would definitely be the way I distinguish mine, is non-linear storytelling.
I love it. I love non-linear storytelling. I love all the movies that people can't follow and stuff. They go backwards or skip around, and people are like, I don't get it, I'm lost. I'm like, I love that stuff, man. No, just
agreed.
I love movies and TV too. Let me ask you. So I'm a big foodie. I'm super passionate about food, and I'm just curious, what's your go-to comfort meal when you've had a long day of research, debates, and big thinking?
God, that's such a great question. I try to get away from comfort meals because I feel like that's when I get in the most trouble. But God, what are my favorites? I love steak. Steak is, that's such a niche answer, but steak is amazing.
I got one in the sous vide right now.
Yum. I love a good tomahawk steak is probably my favorite. It's such a treat. With some sort of, Dolly Parton once said, like, what's your favorite food? And like, that's easy. It's a potato. And they're like, a potato? Why? And I'm like, well, I've never met a potato I don't like. You can have truffle fries. You can have, mashed potatoes. You can have potato soup. I like it. And they always
Right.
get me in trouble. Every diet I've ever fallen off of was because of a potato. So I'd have to say that. But I am on keto because of autonomic regulation reasons. So
Okay.
we'll have to see. But if like once I'm off, that's going to be my first meal.
So that's fun. Listen, it's you're so disciplined with all that stuff. I have no doubt that you'll do it and get it done. Where do you see your passions? All these leadership, law, and science. Where do you see it all intersecting in your future business plans, career?
Right. Gosh, I was talking to my dad about this, and it was like, it is a little bit overwhelming thinking about it, because it's like, I feel like I have so many. That is the downside of being a creative thinker and somebody who's a lifelong student. You have so many avenues you're interested in, and you're living in a systematic world of the workforce that in a lot of ways forces you to go down one. It's like the Robert Frost poem, I took the path that had been less walked on, the yellow road, obviously. But
Sure.
some things that I've been thinking about were, I love engineering, and that to me, just one thing that I really adore is looking at systems, whether it be an economic system or an engineering system, the way something works, and taking it apart and moving it so that it works better, even if it's just theoretical. And I'm also really passionate about policies. I love energy policy. So working as a nuclear engineer would be something I'd be super interested in. My major in college right now, it's tentative, but one thing that I would want to be doing would be, as you said, double majoring in nuclear engineering and economics, just because, try and get as many paths as you want to available to you open. So that is one intersection, or a few, like, as you know, I'm a creative thinker. Those are a few intersections that I'm looking at right now.
Well, that's crazy. I'm telling you, it's like, as you're talking, I'm like, oh my God, I wonder what Charlotte's going to do in the future. I'm going to be like, I'm going to be like, hey, I know that girl, right? We had a nice chat, hopefully.
That's so nice of you.
It's, no, I'm serious. But if we fast forward 10 years and you had to give a TED talk, right? 10 years from now,
right?
What do you hope the topic would be 10 years from now?
Gosh, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I would do what Monopoly tells you about your intuitions part 2, because even after giving it for 2 months, it's probably been 3 months since I've given it. I feel like I've had so many new insights and ideas to add to it. Again, creative thinking, you always want to take pieces apart and reconfigure it so that you're giving a better message. It would either be that, or it would be, God, 10 years from now, I might talk about autonomic regulation. I might talk about the creativity that you release when you're cooking, the different pieces together and how that coincides with the prefrontal cortex in your brain. I know a buttload about that, but I won't bore you. So those are just some
ideas. Man, I'm into brain stuff. So it's that's awesome. But so it'd be Monopoly part 2.
I think that would be my number one choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that can kind of live and breathe and keep going. And there's so many things. That's how my brain thinks of spin-offs. It's like what I'm doing in my book. It's like I got this book with a concept, and it's a talk, and it's going to be a coaching program and a community and a lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So I think the Monopoly concept is very similar in that it crosses over. It transcends.
Right. I agree. Transcends is definitely the verb.
Yeah. So it's incredible what you've got going on. Let me just a couple more questions for you. What's a misconception people have about Gen Z that you'd love to set straight right now?
Thank you for that, because that's something that I've been thinking about. My mom has some beef with Gen Z, to say it in the least eloquent way possible. She seems to think that Gen Z doesn't have the same work ethic as people before had. And I think that, to me, comes from the millennial generation. I think that people from Gen X, I don't know if you're a part of Gen X, have a misconception about
I'm an elder millennial. I'm 1980. So I'm like a zennial. I'm like right when it started.
Exactly.
So I'm like tail end of Gen X, younger millennial. But I did start with millennials, but the millennials are the ones that created things like Uber and Airbnb and like all the, the technology explosion, just in easier ways to do things. And sometimes the older generations think that they're not working as hard much, but I kind of share both of these things, man. Rolled my sleeves up, hard work. worked at garbage dumps, and then I figured out better mousetraps with technology. So, but that your mom, you're saying your mom has this beef. Is she Generation X?
She is. And I must say, we're not going to, my mom is still an incredibly creative and innovative thinker. She's always thinking outside the box. And she's the type of person to come into a room and say, I was thinking about this overnight. What if we do it this way? And I love that about her. I think that's something I inherited from her. But to me, the biggest conception that she has about Gen Z, and that I think a lot of people have, is that we aren't willing to work hard, right? Due to platforms like TikTok, Instagram, we're just kind of unserious. The reality is, one thing that I always like to look at is college admissions, right? College admissions from when my parents were growing up is entirely different than it was now. I think it's a great argument, a great counter argument is, well, you worked hard and maybe you think you worked harder in your job then, but look at how hard kids have to push themselves to get into the same institutions you did. So to me, it's not about working harder, I'm using my mom as like the Gen X spokesperson here, but it's not about working harder versus working less. It's about when in life are we required between these two generations to put in more effort? Because now we're seeing kids killing themselves to trying to get into college. So I think to me, it's a misplaced time respect to effort. And I think that is the biggest misconception about Gen Z.
Yep. And your mom is your mom, and you must be proving her wrong on some level.
to some extent. I think whenever we have this conversation, she's like, well, you're an exception. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm proud to be Gen Z. I think Gen Z is the future, and both literally and figuratively. So I do not consider myself an exception. I think I love Gen Z, and I consider myself a part of it.
Yeah, it's a different thing, but I think and the baby boomers thought that about Generation X, and it's just kind of, it gets passed right down the line.
It's cyclical.
Yeah, who knows what you'll think about your kids someday if you have kids, right? Right. Might be like, it's like, I remember when we were kids, and me watching movies and TV, and adults saying, TV rots your brain, get outside and play. Right. And now it's like, I look at my kids and I'm like, man, watching those 15-second TikTok videos all day watches your brain. Can't you just watch a movie?
It's a cycle. I remember I was having this conversation with my dad. They were like, how like rough we had it when we were Gen X? They literally had to get celebrities on TV to ask where your children are. It's Saturday evening. And I was like, well, I don't understand how that reflects a generation. That's not, you're not superior to me just because you had to play in a backyard, Not had to. Obviously, that's a kind of creativity. It's for the sake of argument. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
Mm-hmm.
That's a funny thing. I know. Last question. And I'll see if there's anything else you want to share, but just what I want to know, in the vein of being spontaneous, and I really say that I love spontaneity. It causes you to be present and live in the moment. And right now, it forces you to. And we talk about being present. People are so fixated on their past or the future, most people. And you've clearly got a big vision. which is very, you're future pacing. But I'm just curious, what's something simple that brings you joy right now?
I don't even need to go off on a tangent right now. It's just playing ping pong with my little brother. That's something that I think about all the time, right? And the scenario that I'm looking to is like, it's a Thursday night at 8 p.m. I'm stressing over the tons of AP work I have to do, the extracurriculars I'm working on, which obviously I love all of that. But as we talked about work-life balance, we can acknowledge that work and play don't need to be separated, but sometimes one of them sometimes outweighs the other. And that creates stress. And I think my favorite thing, where I don't like it as much in the moment, but I love it after, is when I'm stressing over my work and my little brother comes to my room. He's like, ping pong now. He doesn't have many manners, he's a teenage boy, and I'm like, oh, okay. But then I play with him and I feel so released of stress. And it's such a simple thing. It's almost like hearing it on the board and just talking with him about, it's like basic small talk, and it's just playing. It's so relaxing. And that to me is such a simple thing that brings me joy.
That's awesome. It's in so quickly. And ping pong. That's in between. That's in between pickleball. That's just like, there's a pickleball.
Right. It's
right now. It's crazy. I'm like, that's pickleball on a tennis court. And then there's tennis. So I love that ping pong.
Love ping pong.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything I'm not asking you that you want to share with the world, or the world that's going to see this, or my audience?
Gosh, I think my biggest as we talk about it, well, there's one thing I wanted to say just about ping pong. Of course, we're talking about all the philosophical things, and I'm like, actually, about ping pong, I always explain this to my brother because he, like, my brother and I are different. He's brilliant, but he's not. I wouldn't say as like, I wouldn't say he's as curious as I am. And I was like, ping pong is actually a really powerful thing. Richard Nixon used ping pong diplomacy to unite us with China. So I love history, so that's another thing. But there's that. But I think the one through line that I want, if you're watching this, to take away from it is that Charlotte Errico is a curious person who wants to continue to learn for the rest of her life.
A lifelong learner. I always say that about myself. It's a kind of, and when you're a teacher, by the way, it causes you to be a lifelong learner, and school's never out for the motivated. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm looking forward to what we've got going on with TED. And
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And again, I just want to throw it out there as we prep for this TEDx talk, we need a few brilliant, organized, creative people to help make this vision come to life. So if you've ever thought I'd love to be part of something cool and meaningful, this is your sign. So
I have some speakers for you, Chris.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start getting some things out there. So we need speakers. We need a bunch of different volunteers. And I'm going to be, as I get through the next month, going to be more active in putting this stuff together. We're looking to do it early next year, or think winter 2026 in Lake Worth. We're looking at venues. So again, if you're the type who loves to raise your hand, make things happen, and be part of bringing ideas to the world.
If you're a lifelong learner,
you can even reach out to Charlotte if you know her. I'm assembling a small but mighty team of volunteers to help bring this TEDx journey full circle. And thank you so much for again. It's the first time I've talked about it out here on social media. So some more things are coming. And I appreciate I'm excited all the stuff we've got going on. And feel free to reach out to me, anyone, or reach out to Charlotte. She'll be tagged here, and some more videos will come out. But thanks again for joining us. And
thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm so looking forward to the TEDx journey and everything else we have going on collaboration wise.
It's gonna be good. I gotta have your mom and dad on next too.
Yeah, you do.
Let me. I'd love to have a chat with them, and what a great job that they're doing in helping bring up such a well-rounded, intelligent young lady, a wonderful human being.
Thank you so much.
That's top brass. Really, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks for spending this time with us today, Charlotte. Yeah. So see you out there. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much.